All right. Well, I'm so excited for our next speaker. We have Bradley Martin from Kindful here. Bradley is the Senior Director of Sales and Marketing at Kindful. And
Kindful.
I know.
Big fans of Kindful.
Big fans.
Big fans of Bradley Martin.
Thanks for having me.
And so Kindful is a Nashville-based software company that provides powerful software that helps nonprofits organize data and manage donors better. So we're going to learn a lot about donor cultivation and using email to turn new donors into lifelong contributors. And so without further ado, Bradley, you can take it away. I'd love to see your presentation.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Perfect.
Right, I'm going to I'm gonna share my screen here and we'll get going. So let me present here. All right. Do you see the donor cultivation screen there? Okay, great. Well, yeah, I'm really excited to be here. I know that it is for many of us after 5. For me, on Central Time, we're at 4:15, and I'm really looking forward to just kind of covering this topic with you guys. So, so what we're going to talk today about is donor cultivation, and as Candace said, using email to turn new donors into lifelong contributors. And I want to give a little caveat. This is brand new data that we put together with the Next After Institute. And so I will be honest, it's the first time I have presented it on my own. And so if I get caught up on something or something like that, I apologize, but I'll bring it back around. And so so what we're going to cover today is why cultivation matters, 7 key findings we found in this study, and then we're going to leave room for questions. Try to keep it pretty simple. Now, I know it is the end of the day on Friday. We've got a lot of data we're going to cover and a lot of information, and I'm going to try to move as fast as I can to stay on time. Rob and Candace, if I'm getting too far in, please interrupt me. So a quick thing about me, like Candace said, my name is Bradley Martin. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing and Sales here at Kindful. If you need to get in touch with me, you can do that at bradley@kindful.com. Also find me over on Twitter at BradleyMartinII. And so so we put together this study with Next After. I want to make sure I bring them to the surface because they're really the ones that did the research. They put together resources and training. If you haven't heard of Next After, please go check them out. They have some amazing resources and trainings that you can use. And so we partnered with them because we felt like they had decided to do this study, and I'm going to show you here in just a second why. And we just felt like it was a really important study to bring to life and to bring to fundraisers like you. So why cultivation? Why did the Next After say, we've got to put this out there, right? So first off, they have run one of their studies on that wasn't directly related on the mid-level donor crisis, where they gave $1,000 to $5,000 to 37 different organizations. And what they found was that 40% of those organizations did not communicate with them beyond the first month, and 9 didn't communicate with them at all. And that was donors that gave either $1,000 to $5,000 online. And so they did that study. Then, in addition to that, right, they had done the Canadian Online Fundraising Scorecard, and noticed in that and I'm sorry guys, I've got some of these window panes getting in my way just a little bit, so I'm going to move them here real quick so I can see my whole screen. But 15% of organizations sent them nothing in the first 90 days, right? And so in addition to that, right, when they did their recurring giving benchmark study, they also continued to notice this theme that 13% of organizations didn't send a cultivation content to any of the donors, right? And so when we were putting this together, I thought, like, what does cultivation really mean? I want to make sure I define that, right? Like, there's a solicitation email, and then a cultivation email. And what cultivation really means in our eyes and what we're talking about here is when you're just sending people more information, you're giving them something of value, so that helps them understand either how their donation works. It could be just an article about your cause. It could be an article about, the population you serve and what's going on there. And so it's really an email for information purposes that provides value, that does not ask for money in return, right? And so why do we think this is so important at Kindful? So this is our data from our database when we aggregate all of our donors over the last 5 years. What we're seeing is the average retention rate is only 32.7% of all donors year over year, right? And when you specifically talk about new donors, it's 18.8%. It drops dramatically. But once you get someone to give a second donation, it goes up to almost 50 or over 57.6%, or at 57.6%. So really, really focusing on new donors is incredibly important. We hear all the time, talking about people, trying to retain donors. If you want to increase your retention rate, focus on new donors, because if you can bring that 18.8% up, you will bring your overall rate up. So furthermore, Roger Craver, who wrote the retention fundraising book, right? He said, when it comes to improving lifetime value, the only metric that matters, the tactics, techniques, frequency of activity from the fundraising department accounts for less than 20% of the ultimate value on a donor life. So what that really means is that all the solicitations you're sending and stuff like that only account for 20% of the donor lifetime value. The other 80% is how you build relationship with them and show them value through their relationship with you as an organization. So our bold statement here that we put together with Next After is, it's not that we have a fundraising problem. We have a communication problem. And so now what I want to do is I want to jump into some more of the stats, and we're going to try to breeze through these seven key findings as quick as possible. And I hope I can get through it all in the time allowed. So one of the things to notice is giving by channel, right? When someone gives online only, they give $148 per person. Offline only $159. But offline, and the only other thing known is that we also have a valid email address. It goes up to $301 average gift, right? Versus when you're multi-channel, they're giving online and offline, and you can think about that. Maybe someone who's doing a recurring gift online, but also coming to an event, they're drastically increase, right? And so that value, right? Those who only give offline only give 90% more and are 29% more likely to give again next year simply by receiving emails. So this is why email is so important, right? And a lot of people will say email is dead, email is, right? And we're going to show you throughout this that email is one of the best ways you can communicate with organizations. So there was an experiment they did with one of their customers, right, where they had an organization was asking almost twice as much as they were cultivating, right? So they found an organization they were working with that was like I said, asking twice as much as they were cultivating, right? And so their hypothesis was if they increase engagement and giving by increasing cultivation, could they increase engagement and giving by increasing cultivation, right? And so what they did is they created a test that consists of once a week email from Sarah promoting content. So Sarah was a person in their organization. And they said, what if we just send one email a week? And that's all they changed. They kept all of their solicitation emails the same, things like that. And then they did that for 90 days. So about 12 weeks, they sent those emails, right? And so they split this into two groups. One that kept getting just the original solicitation, and then one that also got the cultivation, right? So the blue line also got the cultivation. And what they found was really phenomenal, right? So, so of their donors, they saw a 42% increase in engagement, right? In of their lapsed donors, they saw a 72% increase in engagement. And of their non-donors, people who had just signed up for their email list but never given before, they saw a 109% increase in their engagement with their organization via email, right? That's an 80% increase in average engagement just by sending one additional email. So when you look at giving in those trends, right, they saw a 7% increase in just over 90 days, a 70% increase in donations from their donors, a 37% increase from their lapsed donors, and a 3% increase in their non-donors, right? But just their people who were active donors or had lapsed in the past, just by sending them a little bit more information, one email a week that was not focused on fundraising or a solicitation, they were able to increase their giving across all those categories. 8.1% in donor giving. Oh no, sorry, that was in new donors. In new donors. So in giving, just to move through this really quickly, right? They actually saw an increase in revenue from their donors by 23%. And then on the non-donors, right, that people hadn't given yet, they didn't see a big increase. So how increasing cultivation emails impacts revenue, right? So 80% engagement, 8.1% in donors, and 21% in revenue. So that's what they found just by sending one additional email per week that just provided value. And really all they were doing was like sending a blog post. So we really have a communication opportunity here, not just a problem, but we have a massive opportunity. And so, so for this study specifically, what we did here, right, is we analyzed, or next after I should say, analyzed 2,500, a little over 2,500 emails, and they classified them into different categories, 199 nonprofits across 12 verticals. And then we used two different personas. So for each of those 199 organizations, we either we tried to become both a subscriber and a donor, but did that with two different email addresses and two different personas. So we could see what would they do if we were a subscriber, what would they do if we were a donor. And we do need to call out a special thanks to McQueen, Macklin, and Associations. They did the data analysis once we gathered all this data. So our question we were asking is, what is it like to be a donor? You know, like from an empathy standpoint, and then what are organizations doing? What is the opportunity, right? So when we put ourselves in the seat of a donor, what does the experience look like? And then what do we think, what opportunities do we find, right? And so for this experiment, right, we really stayed on only these first two sections. So here in a non-donor to a new donor, and then a new donor to a second year donor or to a second gift donor, right? So these are the things we focus most on from a result standpoint. And we also only focused on 45 days. The first 45 days after we subscribed or we became a donor, really for two reasons. One is that felt like it gave us more than a month. And it also, we had to end the study at some point to get this data out. So, so we couldn't go on forever, right? And so, so it let us look at a full month's communication cycle, because, you know, typically what we find is people think about communications either in days, weeks, or months, right? Like if you think about especially email marketing, think about how many emails am I sending today, you know, things like that, right? And then also it's important to understand that over a 365-day period, right, your new donors are most likely to give again outside of the first year in the first 45 days, right? And that might surprise a lot of people. A lot of people might feel uncomfortable asking for another donation right after a gift. but that is one of the best times to get people to give again. Otherwise, it goes to their anniversary. It's also where they're most likely to take another action, like start a fundraiser, start a birthday campaign, start a peer-to-peer campaign, things like that, is either in their first 45 days or at their 1-year anniversary. They're also most likely in this first 45 days to become a recurring donor, right? So none of these things, I hope these things don't surprise you, but if someone's given to you for the first time, they're really engaged, they're likely, more likely to get more engaged there at the very beginning. So the other thing to think about is, and this is just kind of a thing to point out here, what we're encouraging is engage when your donors and your supporters are engaged, not necessarily when you are, right? And that's important. So your donors are engaged when they give the first gift. You need to make sure you're engaging them then. So let's jump into these 7 key findings. I'm going to try to breeze through a lot of this as fast as I possibly can. But we'll give you the link here at the end that if you want to download the full study, 66 pages, dive into some of the data yourself, we would encourage you to do that. So finding number 1, we weren't always able to sign up for and get emails as a subscriber or make a gift as a donor, let alone both. So let that sink in for a second. These aren't small organizations. We were given to organizations that typically were $100 million plus organizations per year. And we weren't able to sign up for and get emails as a subscriber or make a gift as a donor, let alone both at all of those organizations. So what did that look like? So we tried to give donations to 253 organizations. We were able to complete 203 donations. We were able to complete 182 email signups. So we could not give to 50 organizations online. 50 $100 million organizations, we were not able to give an online gift, right? And that's 20% of the people. And then we could not sign up for 29%, just like an email subscriber, just like saying, I want to hear your newsletter, things like that. That's insane, right? So step 1, make your email sign up and online donation form easy to find and fill out. Put it on your homepage, do a pop-up, have it in your footer at the bottom right? Like that's a great place to keep your email sign up so that you can communicate with people maybe before they want to be a donor. So of the 203 complete donations, only 189 of them sent us any email in the first 45 days. And when we signed up for email nurturing for an email subscriber, only 132 sent us an email in the first 45 days. So 7% of nonprofits we gave sent us nothing, no receipt, no thank you message, nothing, right? And then 27% of nonprofits we subscribed to, we got nothing from in the first 45 days. Crazy, right? And we were only able to give to and subscribe to 159 nonprofits. So when you combine those two. So lots of opportunity here for improvement. But only 122 sent an email to both personas, right? So we're just, going further down the road here of just, people having the opportunity to communicate, share their mission, share what they're trying to accomplish to people that are interested, and they're just simply not doing it. So we were only able to subscribe and get emails to both personas from 48% of nonprofits, less than half, right? So step 1, or this is more like takeaway 1, test your email sign up and online donation forms. Do it today. Go on your website, give yourself $1 and make sure your donation forms work. A lot of times the form was there, we just couldn't use it. It errored out. Also test your email signups. Are they actually getting into your database? So takeaway number 2, it's not as easy as you may think to understand the main purpose of an email, right? So how would you classify this email? Well, show you a little bit more here, right? Would you classify it as there's an explainer video on YouTube, right? You're thanking and confirming the email sign up. Looks like a button to an article, but it's not. That's not clickable. In addition, right, you've got programs for kids, volunteer opportunities, you've got giving opportunities, right? And then, oh, by the way, this one it's a soft call to action to donate. It is an actual button. So would you classify this as a confirmation, cultivation, or solicitation email, right? We classified it as a cultivation email because like the ask wasn't so strong. But this is part of what we did through this study is we really took everybody and said, like, we got to classify each of the emails we got. So we did that for the 2,500 emails. And then, we would also say, is this a newsletter, blog, impact, volunteer, other? And so we classified this as an article and impact, right? So it's important to be clear with the purpose and the call to action in your emails, right? It's okay not to try to send an email with everything in it. Be clear, ask one thing, right? If you're looking for volunteers, send a volunteer email. If you're looking for a donation, help people understand what the donation is going to go to and ask for the donation. If it's cultivation, cultivate, right? So number 3, not all donors and subscribers are being thanked and welcomed, right? So I'm going to take it. So we're going to take out here the solicitation emails and just look at people that are all email types to subscribers over time, right? So only 52% of nonprofits sent a clear confirmation of email sign up or cultivation email in the first 2 days. So if I just subscribe to email newsletter, I'm not necessarily, only 52% of organizations said, hey, thank you, we've received your email, we'll keep you up to date. Pausing for effect, but only 52% when I subscribe to email send that, right? And then, and to further this, so we asked a while back some organizations and said, do you have an automated welcome series for new subscribers? And only 74% of respondents did not, or 74% of respondents did not have or didn't know if they had a welcome email series, right? Like, build a welcome email series, right? Most all email providers now provide an automated welcome series. Please make sure you're doing that, right? So what is the impact on engagement, right? So I'm going to open all these up, right? Like, so welcome series offer conversion opportunities when engagement metrics are at the highest, right? So again, the first emails you send to an organization are some of the most open and read you will ever see, right? Kindful as a business, we're not a nonprofit, but as a business, we send a thank you email right when someone requests a demo and let them know what the next steps are going to be. It's automated. It goes out from our system. It appears that it's from our CEO, and it gets an 80% open rate. 80% of people, 8 out of 10, will open that email. The other 2 out of 10 probably aren't real people. In addition to that, those our average open rate is only about 22% for emails. So again, when someone subscribes to your email list, they are most engaged with you at that time. Right? And it's a first chance to leave a good impression. So we're going to go through a couple of examples here, right? Don't do what's on the left, right? This email wasn't sent until 30 days after, but the one on the right was sent immediate, right? And look, it's clear, it's concise. It says, hi, Jake, has some personalization in it, and it tells you a little bit more about how to get involved, right? It has a little donation call out there at the bottom, ability to shop. This is a great way just to say, hey, thanks. We're glad you're here. Here's a couple additional ways you can get involved a little bit deeper if you're interested. Right? So another big takeaway, create a welcome email and or series for new subscribers. So here's the email types to donors over time, right? So again, 15% of nonprofits did not acknowledge a donation in the first 2 days, not a thank you email. And every single time a donation was given, the email was given with it. And so I want to be clear on that. So 15% of nonprofits just did nothing, right? They didn't say thank you. They didn't send a receipt. They did nothing, right? Another thing from Penelope Burke's book, Donor Centered Fundraising, right? A thank you call will increase revenue by 39%, right? So just identifying, especially donors that maybe give you a little bit more. What is the threshold? If someone gives you $1,000 online, have someone call them and thank them, right? So a couple other things from Retention Fundraising by Roger Craver, right? Saying thank you is easy retention win number one, right? It's the way to start out. It should be timely and confirm the donation was received, and it should focus on why the gift is appreciated, why the gift matters, and how the gift was put to work. So if you're thinking about, if you don't have a thank you message in place, here's the things to think about. Add all those. Tell why the gift is appreciated, why it matters, and how it's going to be put to work. So a couple good examples of this, like do something like this. You can see here, right? Thank you for making Khan Academy possible, right? Quick email. Or over here, right, where they have this one. And this says, thank you for your gift of $20 to Food for the Hungry. Right now, you're lifting a life out of poverty. Your generous gift is going to immediate work, right? It just gives you that feeling of, okay, I did something and now I understand how it's going to work. Very important. And some organizations are using to move to a next action, right? So like employer match or recurring. Like we don't have a lot of data on this because this isn't what we tested in the study, but it's things you can consider testing in your own organization. So it's worth testing in a thank you message. So make sure they're not just acknowledged, but you thank them with how their donation is needed and is being used, right? Just don't say thank you. Give them what the result's going to be of the money that they provide, right? So step 4, right? Donors get cultivated less and ask more than subscribers. This is another thing. If you let it set in for a second, right? We are giving less value as organizations to our donors than we are subscribers. So our subscribers were asking more, our donors were asking for more from them and giving them less value. Our subscribers were asking less and giving them more value. It's really kind of backwards, right? So on a percentage basis, the donor received 35% less cultivation emails, right? So if you want to cultivate someone, why not cultivate the people who are giving you donations, right? Like, why not help them? These are the people you can say, hey, look at the work, what's going in, what the work that your money is allowing us to do, right? What the result is. On a percentage basis, the donor received 32% more solicitations. So we're getting donors and we're just asking them for more right out of the gate. And then the donor received 45% more asks to make a recurring gift. So again, asking, not giving. Right? So across all organizations, a subscriber gets 2.9 cultivation emails for every solicitation they received, compared to 1.5 for donors. All right, what would happen if we flip this? We just showed you in the last test, right? If we flip this, your revenue can go up, right? So and by actually sending more cultivation to non-donors, your revenue actually goes down in that segment. So cultivate your donors, send them some value, send them some things of value, right? So in general, also donors receive 43% fewer emails, right? The donor received 61% fewer cultivation emails. And the donor received 25% fewer solicitation emails, right, in email volume, right? The average number of emails by type for each persona, right? So, sorry. So for subscribers on the far left, solicitation, they received 2.57 solicitations. They received 7.73 cultivations, but a donor received almost 2 solicitations and only 3 cultivations. So again, really big, difference between this over here and this over here, in that we're just not communicating with our donors as much, and that's really surprising. So emails per personas over time. It's another interesting piece here. I'm sorry, my computer has locked up just a little here. I hope I'm still coming through. This is unfortunate.
We can still see you and hear you, Bradley.
Okay, great. That's great to know. Sorry, I've got my little spinning wheel of death here, and so I'm trying to get this to do something.
Troublesome.
There we go. Yeah, that might not have been the best thing to. That's kind of my thing. I always say to my IT guys, I've got the little spinning wheel of that won't stop. If you use a Mac, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you use a PC, you probably don't. So I'm going to keep talking here about the emails by persona over time, and hopefully this will keep moving on to the next slide. Are you seeing the emails by persona over time slide?
Yeah, we see the emails by persona over time with the little graph.
So again, for donors, right, like emails are going up. Sorry, the cultivation emails are staying about the same. Here we go. I'm back. Now let's see if I can represent here. I apologize for that happening. Okay. I'm sorry, guys. This is embarrassing and a little frustrating, but okay. And so really, I'm going to just kind of keep talking through this and see if this will. Here we go. There we go. I keep saying that, and then I keep getting my spinny wheel there. All right, I'm sorry. So let's see here. I'm going to, let's see if I can really quickly. Okay. Rob, are you guys okay if I just present from here? I hate to do that, but
Yeah, I think that works.
okay.
If there's a way they can zoom in from the bottom right a little bit more or remove the notes section, then that would be helpful.
There we go. Okay.
That's perfect.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and jump down to the fifth. The big story here is that this slide really kind of tells it that subscribers, they just got less emails over time, and they got less both for solicitation and cultivation emails over time. But over time, donors got about the same amount of cultivation emails, but they got more solicitations. So again, over time, we're just asking more and more of our donors. All right, and so getting into the fifth finding is most organizations send emails at the same time. Right, so you can see here, 49% of cultivation emails are sent between 6 a.m. and 1 p.m. Right, and so in these bands, Sunday and Saturday are when less emails are sent. And you might think, hey, it would be crazy to send an email on Sunday and Saturday, right? But think about it. A lot of donors are giving from their personal accounts and things like that. Imagine, and a lot of donors are at work Monday through Friday. So if you send them an email Monday through Friday, solicitation emails, again, are primarily sent right during this period, 6 a.m. to 12 p.m., and very little are sent on the weekends. And so contra competitive timing. So think about, this is something Dan Zarella put out, is think about what would happen if you sent emails when other people weren't, or solicitations when other people weren't. Well, we did a study on this, and Next After did, right? And they found that you can get up to 50% higher average gift on email sent on the weekend versus the weekday, right? So maybe just test that out. Try to send an email, a cultivation email, at off-peak hours and days instead of the peak hours and days. Okay? And then I know we're pushing up on time here, so I want to hit on this one real quick, and I want to just show you one example. So most emails don't look, sound, or feel like they are from a person to a person, right? So think about your own inbox, especially your personal one, right? What you probably see is a lot of emails from things like Target and all these brands sending you emails. It's probably actually fairly rare. Your inbox might look something like this, right? Where you have Open Doors USA, MAD, NPR News, right? All these rooms to read, right? All these organizations, but very few people actually sending an email from a human being, right? And so what did we find when we did that? Let me share with you, right? So it is here. So So 28% opens when you send an email from someone that from a person versus an organization. This was a test that Next After ran. 18% email increase when you send from a person versus a person at an organization. Right. And then they ran this experiment where they added Next After to after Tim's email, and they got a 9.1% decrease in opens just by adding the business name, right? So think about sending your emails from a person, from a person, and make them look like they're from a person also, right? Like this one, where Caring Bridge, we just removed the logo. Basically, same message, remove the logo, added a link versus this button, 145% increase, right? So think about sending your emails from a human to a human. And again, you can make a lot of emails look that way in most of the email clients. Right, and I'm going to dive down to the 7th finding just for time here. Very few organizations are using a survey, right? So last thing on this is consider sending a survey, right? The Innocence Project sent 34 days after sign up a survey so they could learn more about their donors and talk more specifically to them, right? So just due to time, I'm going to jump down here and say, if you want to learn more, it is not coming soon anymore. I forgot to move that banner. It is available. If you want the Nonprofit Cultivation Benchmark Report, go to cultivatingdonors.com. Again, I would encourage you to learn more about Next After. And if you want to learn any more about Kindful and our donor management platform, please join us over at kindful.com. Right, and so I'm going to back up here and sorry about the technical problems there, Rob and Candace, but and I think we're almost out of time, but I'd love to answer any questions if there's time for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for taking us through all of that. Such great insights about really all things email marketing to really increase conversions and maintain those donors, those relationships with those donors. So I think all of this was so many great key learning opportunities. So thank you so much. So I want to open it up for Q&A. So one of the things I saw come in pretty early, and so some of the statistics that you were talking through earlier, Nola asked if they were just for Canada or if they were for international statistics as well.
So I think there was one Canadian report in there that just led us to doing this study. But most of the donations, most of the study that I went through, all the 7 key findings, were actually from both organizations from U.S. and Canada, primarily U.S. organizations.
Okay, great. I mean, I think it applies everywhere. You know, if it works in Canada, it's going to work in the US and vice versa. You know, donors are donors. So I think that's, yeah, thank you so much for clarifying that. And Jedley asked, is it advisable to send an email on a Saturday?
So I think I would argue that it's advisable to send an email at any time. You know, I don't think that, I think we kind of have like these thought processes about when we should send emails, but I think it's worth testing. I think, like, especially if you think about donors, unless you're sending like to a corporate, you know, person to do like a sponsorship of an event, but if you're sending to individuals, sure, send them an email on a Saturday and see how it performs. You know, like, look at when you've been sending your other emails, and send one on a Saturday and see if you get a better open rate. I know, like me personally, I look at my personal inbox a lot more on the weekend, and I clean out my personal inbox on the weekend because I'm busy with my work inbox during the week.
Thanks so much. We'll leave it open for a minute here, see if there's any other questions coming in. Let me scroll back, see if I missed any.
I have a quick question. Bradley, what company are you with and what do they do?
I'm sorry?
What company are you with and what do they do?
Oh, yeah, sure. I'd love to answer that. Thanks, Rob. So I'm with Kindful. We are a donor management software. And so we help organizations manage their donors. We have built-in fundraising tools like donation pages, some peer-to-peer pages and stuff like that. but we integrate with many other tools. So one of our biggest value is we integrate with 45 other tools. Like I think we are working maybe to try to get something where we're going to be integrating with CauseVox, but we integrate with things like PayPal, MailChimp, Emma, Constant Contact, QuickBooks. And so we really try to be a hub for all of your donor data. And so you can understand how your donors are working with your organization and how you can better really build relationships with them. And so we work with about 2,000 organizations, or we serve about 2,000 organizations all across, primarily in the United States, but some in Canada and then some in Australia as well, and a couple other countries. But yeah, so we're here in Nashville, Tennessee. Our whole staff is here, and you know, that's what we do.
Cool. Thanks so much. I think that's all the time we have for questions for this session. So Bradley, thanks so much for sharing all those insights. I know it's late over there on a Friday, so we definitely appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. I really.
Yeah, if you could do me a favor, and if you could just kind of in the chat box, just put in a link to where people can find out more info about your work over here with this study, as well as maybe your donor management system. And
Yep.
If you have any questions, then